Anaheim because it reminded him of his small town childhood. It had a farming community, it had a very, very quaint town, and it had these neat little traditions that were already strong and going, like the Halloween Parade, which already was in its 30-something year by the time Disney came around. So the studio actually designed 6 floats for the Halloween Parade in 1953, free of charge. They just designed the floats and sent the renderings down to Anaheim to the Chamber of Commerce and said, here, we would just love to contribute. We'd just love to be involved with your Halloween Parade. And the parade float drawings, I'll show you some. Here's some people holding the rendering. The rendering they're holding is this one, Cinderella. These were all drawn by Roy Williams. If you remember the Mickey Mouse Club from the 50s with Annette, Jimmy Dodd, and Bobby, and everybody. Roy was the big adult who drew drawings on the show. So he did all these. And go to the next one. There was a Donald Duck cartoon called Trick or Treat from, I believe, 1952, which was pretty much strong in everyone's mind. So there was a float based on that with Witch Hazel and everybody, Pinocchio. So they did the designs, and then the floats themselves were built by local businesses and the residents. And all of the Disney characters that you see on the floats were performed by local residents and school kids and stuff. They didn't have the characters, the official characters from Disneyland yet. That didn't exist. So when Disneyland opened, or at least the year before Disneyland opened, a few months before, in October of '54, Disneyland had a very strong presence in the parade that year. They did a whole homage to this preview of Disneyland coming. So there was Sleeping Beauty's castle and the Mark Twain, and believe it or not, all of these things were really built too. So scooting ahead into the 70s, since the Fall Festival started in 1923, and Disney's studio opened in 1953, hence D23, as you all know. They were both celebrating their combined golden anniversaries in 1973. So they had a big, big thing, and Disney contributed 31 Disney characters to the parade, and 6 floats, and 2 vehicles for Main Street, some of the old cars. So all of these things left Disneyland, went up into downtown Anaheim, and drove through the streets, which was pretty cool. This is a great shot. This is actually from 1971. The new movie that year was The Aristocats, and the guy that you see up there is Scatman Crothers, who actually stood on the float, rode through the streets of Anaheim singing "Everybody Wants to Be a Cat" on a microphone over and over and over for about 2 miles, which is great. Our very first, we had a lot of, by the way, we had a lot of really great Grand Marshals. Our first Grand Marshal back in 1924 was Babe Ruth, who happened to be playing a baseball game nearby, and they grabbed him that morning and said, hey, we're going to put on a little parade up in Anaheim, why don't you come up and do it and be our Grand Marshal? So he was. But in 1954, our first non-human Grand Marshal was Donald Duck, our first cartoon character Grand Marshal. And because this is before Disneyland opened, there was no Donald Duck official costume to come and greet the kids that we're all aware of today. So instead they had Clarence Nash, who was the voice of Donald in the cartoons, and Clarence had a ventriloquist dummy of Donald, and he rode in the car and quacked like Donald with the puppet, which is pretty cool. Just as a little bit of an aside, we are trying to get Tony Anselmo, who is the current voice of Donald Duck. Tony's all on board, it's all up to Disney now. To get him, not as Grand Marshal, but in the parade with Donald. This is also Donald Duck's 80th anniversary this year too, so it all kind of makes sense. It'd be really fun. But anyway, from what we understand, Tony has possibly tracked down this original puppet, and it may be in the parade, which is pretty great. Other Grand Marshals we've had of note, Buddy Ebsen of the Beverly Hillbillies. Another Buddy Hackett from The Love Bug, and actually he rode on Herbie the Love Bug in the parade in 1969. One of our most famous Grand Marshals was young Jodie Foster, who was only 8 years old at the time and was co-starring with Johnny Whitaker, Family Affair fame, if you know Johnny Whitaker, and Sigmund and the Sea Monster. They were both together in a Disney movie called Napoleon and Samantha, about 2 kids who raised a lion. And they were picked down as the Grand Marshal. So there is proof that Jodie Foster was Grand Marshal of the Anaheim Halloween Parade. And we just keep joking, well, do you think we'll ever get her back? What will it take? Anyway, this is kind of fun. This was the newspaper insert that year. So there you've got Johnny and Jodie over here on this side. And on the other side, you have Suzanne Crow and Kami Coulter, who were, who were also child actresses. Suzanne was the youngest daughter on the Partridge Family, and Kami was little Elizabeth on the Waltons. Elizabeth Walton. So we had a lot of, it's kind of fun. Kami actually has a Facebook page. And the Anaheim Halloween Parade befriended her Facebook page, and within about 2 hours, we got a really excited message back from Kami Coulter going, "Oh my gosh, that was one of my favorite memories, being a little kid and being in that parade." So that was pretty awesome. Another amazing person that has been in the parade is Daddy Ed Roth and his family. If you know Ed Roth and his artwork, he's here in the 1970, is it 71, Jody? 71 parade, and he's driving Professor Fate's Cannonball 8 from the Great Race, the movie Great Race. This I just had to show you because I love it. So there were all kinds of corporate sponsors wanted to be involved with the parade back then, and of course we had Carl's Jr., we had McDonald's, we had Carl's Big Boys, so there were lots of big hamburgers in the parade during the 60s and 70s. But I love this little golf cart with the big hamburger on it. I just said so amazing. I would love to build that. And then Miss Halloween, I told you about Miss Halloween and all of that, starting way back in the old days. That was continuing, and in fact, this year we're hoping to bring that back in a bigger way. But I love this picture from the 70s. You can see how Miss Halloween has evolved, and so has her float. It's now like this really cool little buggy. Okay, so in 1955, as you know, Disneyland opened, which was a humongous thing to happen in Anaheim. So who would anyone naturally think of as Grand Marshal but Walt Disney? So they sent out an invitation. Walt, we'd love to have you be the Grand Marshal this year. It is your year. And he was out of town. So they very soon after got a message from another Walt, Walter Knott, over in Buena Park. He said, "I'll do it." So that year, the year Disneyland opened, Walter Knott of Knott's Berry Farm was our Grand Marshal. Okay, so that leads us into now, actually. The parade has seen some ups and downs. Right now we're on a big ramping up trajectory, hopefully. Jody and I were both artists for Disney for a long time, so we kind of adopted the old mascot of Anaheim that had been sort of discarded years ago, called Andy Anaheim, who's a cute little character that has an A for a body, and he's sort of an unknown animal. He looks like Mickey Mouse's nose and Jiminy Cricket's head and Chippendale's feet. I don't know. It's kind of a Frankenstein of Disney characters. But anyway, bringing him back as the logo and also making him sort of the title of the parade. So the parade now starts out with a giant Fisher-Price pull toy that goes down the street, and this was the rendering for it. You can actually see it getting built. We have a warehouse in the heart of downtown Anaheim with a scenic shop. Bill and Kathy are there a lot lately, and all of us are going to be there quite a lot in the next weekends leading all the way up into the parade. But here's Andy's head getting built, and here's the final float from last year. It turned out really, really cool, and it actually it has no motor in it. It's pulled by a human being, and as it goes down the street, his head turns side to side, and his arms move, and he bangs on the drum. It's pretty great. Okay, just to sort of show you kind of the look. You know, walking around the floor today, you know, there's so much horror movie influence in Halloween that's kind of crept in since the 70s and 80s. We're kind of taking it back with our parade, back to kind of that Halloween we all remember when we were in grade school, which was just pumpkins and black cats and haunted houses and skeletons and all of that kind of stuff. It just has such an amazing look to us, and so trying to bring back some of that atmosphere to the parade has been really our goal. Very classic. As you can see by a lot of the costumes and some of the looks of it, it has that very old school kind of thing that tugs at our heartstrings. In fact, here's a couple of little floats that were built. They're just little wagons that kids rode in the parade, and they're actually designed off of miniature candy containers from the 1930s. They were just little kind of pressed mat board and paper mache and celluloid little things, and we started making them big and actually pulling them down the street. I don't know if you can, that's really hard to see in this light. It's a really dark rendering. Jodie did a rendering of a grumpy tree. We thought it would be kind of fun to do. Maybe go to the next picture. Here's what he actually turned out looking like in the parade. He was sponsored by the Anaheim Packing House, which is our big new amazing food hall down there in Anaheim. And as you can see, the parade happens at nighttime. So we work with that darkness and rig up a lot of the floats to be illuminated. This is just a weird character we call the Heebie-Jeebie. I think he's going to be a character that shows up every year. And how tall is he, Jodie? 16 feet. He's just this creepy, weird guy who rolls down the street, intimidates everybody. Another hard-to-see picture is the haunted house. Again, illuminated, and it's surrounded by a troupe of puppeteers who have illuminated rod puppets of ghosts that zoom around the house. And going to the next one. It all starts out with, a lot of our float designs start out with renderings, drawings to try to do turnarounds and all of that. And you can see there's a little cardboard model over here of the haunted house, and then there's the roof piece on someone's back of someone's pickup truck. Some of this stuff gets pretty big. Only the boat was called the Majeska Maiden, which is hearkening to a kind of an inside Anaheim history joke of a famous citizen in Anaheim named Adam Majeska. And that's okay. Just click back to slideshow down at the bottom again. There we go. And there's how the boat turned out. It's built on a golf cart, battery-powered golf cart. Works out really well. Okay, woo, good. And some of the artists, some of the Robot Chicken artists actually came down and built these great masks. They were Giraffe Girl and Rhino Girl. And we had a guy dressed as sort of a Trader Sam type head salesman with paper lanterns that look like shrunken heads. But this is kind of what our world is down there. Like I said, we have a parade warehouse. On some days we've had close to 60, 70 people show up at one time to help build stuff. Everything from doing decoupage with tissue paper to electrical wiring of light-up stuff and day-glow paint and sewing and everything you can imagine. It's kind of like a little Walt Disney Imagineering down there. Okay, so here's some previews of what's coming this year. Or this is our wish list. None of this has been built yet. We have 3 months to do it, but we can do it. So again, based on some of the old candy containers and decorations from the past, we're going to be building some more floats for the vintage Halloween area. One of the artists you may know, Rodi Montijo, who has actually got a booth here, the Halloween Kid booth that's downstairs on the second floor. He does amazing characters and really fun Halloween stuff. He's going to be helping us art direct some pieces, some giant puppets and stuff. Adding to the nighttime aspect with more illuminated paper lantern puppets and special effects. That's a big devil head, it's really hard to see. We actually have 2 fire juggling troops living in downtown Anaheim. It's kind of a circus down there. I think it's the theatrical world of living right off on the other side of the burn of Disneyland. You have everybody from musicians to puppeteers to fire jugglers living in our town. So it's kind of cool to tap into all that crazy talent and put them to work on something fun like this. The Anaheim Brewery wants to have a float this year, and it will probably be this amazing German guy. Another Fisher-Price toy will be animated and drink beer and blow bubbles, which should be fun. What's our next one? Oh yes, Tony's Deli, since 1958, will probably sponsor the Bacon Dragon, kind of a Chinese dragon made out of bacon. And Charles Phoenix wants to be involved in the parade this year, and so we're going to build for him a giant Asteroid Christmas tree that will roll down the street with Charles somewhere being chased by it. I'm not sure what he's going to do. I don't know what he's going to do. Okay, and then as I said, 1951, we chose the Rocket Witch to be our special tribute float this year. So there's our rendering of the Rocket Witch float. As you can see, no artistic license has been taken. It looks exactly as plain and strange as it did back in 1951. And that's it. So anyway, thanks a lot for your attention and for your patience during our technical problems.